Today is part 2 in a series that we started last week on how to improve your overall walking fitness, or really just fitness in general. In particular, after a prolonged hospitalization, or if you're someone who's recovering from a neurologic injury. If you're new to this channel, I'm Tara. I'm a neurologic physical therapist, and on this channel we talk about anything and everything related to mobility, health, fitness, mindset in the context of a neurologic injury, with the end goal of empowering you with as many tools as possible to reach your highest maximum level. And all that being said, last week I talked about what kind of it means to be deconditioned or sedentary, what the CDC recommends as kind of like a baseline of what they consider the minimum amount of physical activity necessary to maintain health. And then I really made walking as the central theme of this series, because I really do believe that when you improve your overall walking fitness, it inevitably will result in just improving your overall activity level, improving your overall health, preventing you from potentially having another stroke if you've already had a stroke, and really optimizing your brain health if you are living with any type of a neurologic condition. So just as a quick review, remember I talked about a sedentary lifestyle being defined as anyone who spends more than 6 hours sitting or lying down during the day, which unfortunately is a lot of people after you've had a prolonged hospitalization that's affected your mobility, or you've had damage to your neurologic system which has affected your mobility. And so that's kind of the baseline where I think everyone starts in their neuro rehab journey. And then I talked about some of the barriers of going from kind of what we consider just being able to be mobile in the community to being able to jump to that next level of what I call being walking fit. And some of the barriers to that are poor balance. So in last week's video, we really just spent the entire video addressing that. How do you improve your overall balance confidence to improve your overall walking speed and walking distance? And then in this video, we're going to address one of those other barriers that I talked about in that video, and that is just the sensation of shortness of breath. The technical term for that is dyspnea, and there are a variety of things that can cause this. So just because you have shortness of breath does not mean that you can just jump into an exercise program. There are a ton of medical conditions that can cause you to be short of breath. Some of them are very serious medical conditions. So we want to make sure that if you are watching this video and you've not been to a doctor in a while, you really need to get into a doctor and make sure they rule out any serious medical condition before we can kind of conclude that your shortness of breath, and I'm speaking in particular of shortness of breath upon exertion, and I'll get into what that means in a minute here, but we're speaking specifically about shortness of breath when you try and do something because of your body being in a deconditioned state, not because of some other medical condition. And along those same lines, just because you have an underlying medical condition that might be causing it doesn't mean you can't exercise. It just means you need a doctor to put parameters on those exercises to make sure that you're not going to worsen any of the medical conditions that might be causing it. So I hope that's very clear, but when I refer to it in this video, I am really talking about shortness of breath on exertion as a result of your body being in a deconditioned state. So what exactly is dyspnea on exertion? Dyspnea on exertion is the sensation or feeling that you're running out of air and that you can't breathe deeply enough or fast enough to get air into your body when you are performing an activity that's above your baseline level of activity or above your resting activity level. So what causes someone to get the sensation that you're running out of air when you are attempting to do an activity because you're in a deconditioned state? Really, it boils down to the heart and the lungs just not being able to keep up with the demands of your body. So you're doing something, your body is demanding more oxygen than it normally does because you are doing an activity that is placing a higher demand for that oxygen on your body. So your body is screaming, I need more oxygen to make everything function. Your heart and your lungs work together to get that oxygen into your body. Your lungs obviously is where the gas exchange happens, so you breathe that oxygen in. Your lungs are responsible for getting that gas exchange, so getting that oxygen into the blood. And then your heart is responsible for pumping that oxygen-rich blood into your body. So if your heart is not pumping efficiently enough, so I did a video a while back on post-hospitalization fatigue, and I talked about cardiac output, which is how much blood your heart pumps out into the body, and that is absolutely impacted when you are in the hospital for a long time or you're laying down for a long time. So your heart is not getting as much blood with each pump. It's not getting as much blood out into the body. And long story short, your body just panics. So why do I tell you all that? Well, because what most people do, because that sensation is so scary, is they just stop moving. And that's really going to make matters worse, meaning your heart and your lungs are going to become even less efficient, and then it's going to take even less exertion for your body to go into that panic response because it's not getting enough oxygen to meet the demands. So you're just going to slowly become even more and more deconditioned, which will lead to gaining more weight or gaining weight, and potentially, if you've had a stroke, put you at an even higher risk, in a higher risk category for having another stroke. So what's the solution so that you don't feel like you're torturing yourself? It's really just coming up with a good plan, which is what we're going to go over today, on how to challenge your body a little bit so that your body does demand a little bit more oxygen, but not so much that your body goes into a panic response. So whether you're someone who's just starting out, or whether you're someone who wants to get back to walking 30 minutes at a moderate pace, which if you watch last week's video, that's really going to be the goal that I hope that everyone has somewhere on their radar, that's the goal we're getting to. What do you need to do to get from where you're at now to that level? But with all that said, today's video is kind of a big picture overview on cardiovascular fitness. You will notice there's a category in this software system, in this library, titled cardiovascular exercises. Now, here is the goal that I think we should all be striving for at some level. If you are an adult, the CDC recommends 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. But what that means, moderate intensity exercise, means that you should be able to do the exercise without gasping for air, and you should be able to maintain a conversation. If you cannot do those two things, meaning you have to gasp for air or you cannot carry on a conversation, you are working above that range. On the other hand, you should be working hard enough that you feel like you are breathing a little bit harder and that your heart rate has increased from its resting state. So, what is the starting point, or where do we want to start if you are on that lower end or closer to that more sedentary lifestyle? You want to start with sitting. So the main goal is to get 30 minutes in of continuous activity without feeling like you're gasping for air. So we'll start with a little series in sitting. I do a little circuit to keep you going for the entire 30 minutes, but not make it as boring. So come up with 5 different activities that you can do and just repeat that series 6 times. So you could do seated punches for a minute, and then go into little kicks for a minute, and then marching for a minute, and then like what I call opposite elbow to knee for a minute, and then end with another set of punches. So that would be a sitting series. Now you want to make sure you can do continuous movement for 30 minutes in sitting without feeling like you're gasping for air. Now remember, the whole goal of this entire routine is to improve the overall efficiency of your lungs and your heart. Your lungs getting that air into your bloodstream, the heart getting that blood into your body efficiently. But once you can do that, then I would move to standing and continue a similar series, standing, doing continuous activity for 30 minutes. The reason I like to do it in standing first is there's not that fear associated with it. So if you do start to get short of breath, you can just sit down. So a similar series, do a set of punches in standing, little mini squats, and then you can go into marching or just heel lifts for a minute, and then do some side to side or lateral lunges for a minute, and then do alternating forward, backward, and stepping for a minute. That's 5 exercises. Just repeat that 6 times, and there's 30 minutes. And once you can get through that series without feeling like you're gasping for air, then you can start setting a plan where you're walking a certain distance, still short, so that you can make sure you can get back, but just challenging your body a little bit, requiring your body to demand a little bit more exercise in a controlled way. So just a little bit of push where you are challenging your heart and your lungs to be a little bit more efficient. So we'll just do a short walk, maybe to the end of the driveway, maybe to the mailbox and back. And then once you can do that, and you feel good about it, maybe finish with the standing exercises, just in case you're not sure if you can make it down and back to the mailbox a second time. But once you can do some combination of little walks and the standing exercise for 30 continuous minutes, now I think it's time to start setting out a course. Maybe you go 4 minutes out and then 4 minutes back first. Make sure you can do that, and then you can start increasing that time to the point where you can go 15 minutes out and 15 minutes back. Now, another great way to get this 30 minutes in is pool therapy. I am doing an entire video on pool therapy because I have gotten some questions about it. There are some pluses and minuses to pool therapy when it comes to spasticity and quality movement retraining. So there will be an entire video on that. But when it comes to just cardiovascular fitness in general, walking in a pool or doing a water aerobics class is an excellent way to start improving that overall cardiovascular fitness. Now, if you guys have been following me for a while, you know a lot of times I kind of put down walking long distances, and there is a fine line here. There is a balance here, because I think that we've gone to the opposite extreme when it comes to therapy. And again, I don't think going to a skilled physical therapist and walking in a circle around a gym is worth your time. You can do that on your own, and it's definitely not a skilled service. So they shouldn't even be charging insurance companies for it. And that's my big beef with this push in our industry to encourage these walking programs. But the other reason is I've seen some really bad consequences when people have just walk all the time, and they had these horrific compensations with severe knee pain, back pain. The strong leg starts to break down and you start to have trouble in that leg. So I really have seen some pretty bad consequences to people who just went out there and just walked and let their spasticity kind of go to town. So there is a balance here. So one alternative that I like, if you know you have a really severe spasticity and you've done everything in the multitude of videos I've done on this channel to help combat some of this spasticity, is an elliptical. So if you're past the sitting stage and you're past the standing stage and you can do those activities without gasping for air, you do need something to challenge your cardiovascular system that's a little bit more challenging than those activities. And I love an elliptical. Your feet stay on a firm surface, so it's harder for your foot to go into that plantar flexion, and it is easy, or that foot pointing down if you have spasticity in the calf muscle or the muscles that point the foot down. But also you can hold on, which decreases spasticity a lot of times, and it's easier to keep your knees bent on an elliptical. Don't ask me why. I think it's just because the combination of you holding on, just feeling more secure. A lot of times people don't go into that hyperextension, or it's easier for them to stop their knee from going into that hyperextension. The other reason I like an elliptical is it does simulate a walking pattern, and you can get into a pretty good rhythm and maintain it for 30 minutes. So I really do like an elliptical. If you're at that level, that would probably be the number one piece of cardiovascular equipment that I would recommend. A bike, an upright bike is better than a recumbent bike. I really don't like the new steps at all. All you do is push. So at least on a bike, there's some pulling going on. You do have to bend your knee a little bit on the way back. The elliptical, you don't. It's just push, 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 push. So I'm really not a big fan. I'm really not a fan of a bike either, because your foot usually does just say plantar flexed or pointed the entire time you're on the bike. But if you're someone that maybe just has a little bit of spasticity and it just gets really bad when you're walking, I would say that an upright bike is a good way to get that cardiovascular fitness up. Just you have to make sure that your knee doesn't go into hyperextension, and do your best to not let your foot point. So lowering the seat a little bit will sometimes help with that. So that would be my recommendation if you wanted to go to a gym and use an upright bike. But the other reason I mention all this is because the third pillar in this well-rounded fitness program to get you up to that 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity activity is there should be a pillar in this system of movement retraining in every session. You should start and end with it so that you're not forgetting how to do those isolated movements. If you were only walking and you have a lot of compensations, they are going to get worse. So you want to be reinforcing some of that good quality movement, and that is going to be the topic of next week's video. So I hope that you tune in for next week's video, where we are going to go into the final leg of this well-rounded fitness program to get you from a sedentary lifestyle into an active lifestyle, make you feel better physically, get you outside, getting fresh air, making you feel better mentally, and giving you something that you do every day, which just gives you a sense of accomplishment. I think that's why I exercise every day. I think that's why most people exercise every day. Is it really is on a good day, a bad day, over time, not initially, but over time, it does make your day better. You just feel proud of yourself. Even on a bad day, that you've done something that was productive and gave you a sense or feeling of accomplishment. So that is our goal, or that is my goal of this series. So definitely tune in next week for the last component of this. If you're new to this channel and you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so that you will get notified every time I upload new videos. If you have any questions, definitely leave those in the comments below, or even better, you can join us for our monthly live, where you can submit questions in advance and join us live for a Zoom call where I will answer your questions. And every month it seems like we do have time at the end where I can answer your questions in real time. So definitely information for that is in the description below. So definitely check that out. If you're not following us on Instagram, definitely head over there. We post exercises several times a week just to kind of change up your routine a little bit, give you some motivation, inspire you a little bit. So definitely head over there so that you can stay in touch with us throughout the week. I enjoyed spending time with you all today, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.